Alrighty, welcome back to part 3. We're going to start styling this web page. Sorry it's taking so long, I've been really busy. So I'm going to try and knock this out here in like 15 minutes. So if I go too fast, well, it's a video. You can pause it, right? Okay. So when we last left off, we were left with just the HTML. This is what we have here. I put some breaks in here and changed a little of the dialogue around. And then, as I recall, and I'm actually using Notepad++ this time. I'm doing some updates with Adobe right now, and it won't let me start Dreamweaver while it's doing the updates, so I just use Notepad++, which is fine. So, anyway, I gave the PageUp a class of group. We'll get into that in just a minute. So we're going to start styling right off the bat. First thing we need to do is let's zero everything out first. So I'm going to call everything, and we're going to give everything a margin of 0 and padding of 0. And that's what this asterisk does. It calls everything, every element on the page. Grab everything in the HTML, and I'm going to give it a background, AC, and then we're going to grab that background. It's in our images folder, and we called it bg.jpg. Then we're going to we only want it to repeat on the x-axis, so we're going to background repeat and repeat x. So that'll give us that gradient we want, and if we go back in here, there's that gradient. So next thing we want to do is we want to grab this page wrap here. And we're going to give that page wrap. So if we look on our site here, you see we have this gradient, but we have another gradient in here, which is this wrap BG. So we're going to use that gradient, and I already actually know what color. It's the CT or C2, so we're going to give this a color of C2, and the URL we're going to use is that images wrap BG. And we only want it to repeat on the X as well, so, and we're going to give the page wrapper a width of 1024 pixels. 1024 pixels. And we're going to center it. We're going to give it 10 pixels top and bottom, and then a margin of auto left and right. So that should center us. If we go back to our stuff here, and that's it. And it is centered. If we pan out, you can see that it's centered. Next thing we want to do is grab the title here. We've got that labeled as the header, and we want to get the text that's in the header, which is that H1 tag. We want to align that in the middle. So we'll align center, and then we want to give it some padding. We're going to give 0 on the top, 0 on the right, 10 pixels on the bottom, and 0 on the left. Next thing we want to do is target that H1 tag that's got the actual title in it. And we're going to give that a font. We're going to give it 100 pixels. And the font that we're using is going to be this TWSend MT condensed. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab that and put that in there. And I already know what color that text is going to be, so we're going to give it the color of the F6. One thing that we've got here, and I am going through this really quick. So there we have it full on, but you'll see we've got a little bit of a shadow there on the original site, so I'm actually going to do that as well. So I'm just going to put text shadow, and it's going to be 4 pixels, 4 pixels. That's 4 pixels to the right, 4 pixels on the bottom, and 8 pixels spread. And we're going to give it just this gray color, and that'll give us that. So give it a little bit of pop. So the next thing we need to target is this navigation here, and we're going to target the nav and the unordered list in the navigation here. And we're going to give it a list style of none. That gets rid of those little bullets. That's these little bullets here. So they're gone. And then we're going to grab the actual list. So nav unordered list. And we're going to display these inline so that they are next to each other, just like that. And we want to grab this font, that same condensed font that we're using pretty much on everything on the page. So grab that. 24 pixels is the size we're going to make that. Let's see. We want it to be bold, so they kind of stick out there a little bit. So we're going to get that, and we want to separate them from each other. So no padding on the top or bottom, but 15 pixels padding left and right. And let's see here what we've got. There they are. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the links in, and I'm going to style these links for everything on the page because they're all going to be the same. I'm actually going to put that up here above the HTML. So you'll see I've got links. They're all the black color, but a gray when you hover over it, and no decoration, which is these underlines. So if I save it and then refresh it, you'll see they're black, and when you hover, they turn to this light gray. So we'll go back down to our nav. Now, one thing you'll notice is I've got these little lines. In the original, I actually used images of a line between each one. Well, it's kind of a pain if I want to add more or take away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a border on the left-hand side of each one of these, and it'll give us that. Well, it'll give us that line. So it's just going to be a 1 pixel border, solid black, and there's that line. Now we have a line over here, so we're going to use one of CSS3's pseudo classes. So we're going to target that nav ul li, and we're going to target the first child, which means the very first of the list items. And if we target just that one and give it a border of none, then it takes away that border. Now if we had done it so that they all had a border on the right, then we would target last child. So it's a nice little feature of CSS3. Okay, so what's next? We want to grab the featured artist area here, which is that piano, which is right here. We'll just give it a height of 200 pixels. That's about right. We're going to target that featured div, and that's right here. So we've already made it through all this. So we're going to grab the featured div, and we're going to give it a position of relative, and the reason is because we're going to have that image right here that is going to be positioned absolutely within it. So we need to give it a relative positioning, so that anything positioned absolutely is positioned absolutely in relationship to that. And you'll see what I mean here in a bit. 200 pixels on the height. I'm going to give it a background color of 7.2. The reason is because it's got a little border on it right here, and I'm actually just going to, that border's not part of the image. I'm just going to make that border the background. We're going to grab that piano image, and we're going to make sure that it doesn't repeat itself, and then we're also going to make sure that it's centered. And we're going to move it down 10 pixels from the top, and that take care of that, and there it is. Oh, that's looking much better. Now let's target this featured image here. This is what we need to make this position of absolute, so it'll be position in relationship to this featured here. So we're going to grab the featured image tag, and we're going to first things give it a position absolute, and width we're going to make it 190 pixels wide to hold that image, a height of 185 pixels. And I'm going to move it down from the top 9 pixels, and we're going to move it over from the left 200 pixels. And I am going to give it a border in there. So that's what we've got right there. We need to give this text a color. So let's color that text white. I don't need any code for it. We'll just put the white. And then background color. And we're going to give it this black until we get an image in there. And let me align that text to the center. There we go. Alright, what's next? Let's get this sidebar here out of the way. So we're going to float that all the way to the left. We're going to give it a width of 145 pixels and a height of 414 pixels. And then let's get that background image is going to be that fiddle image. So URL images fiddle, and it was a PNG because we had to have the transparency. And then we're going to make sure that we don't repeat it. So we only want it to show up once. And we're going to place this down at the bottom. And we're going to give it a margin. So margin from the top 50 pixels, 0 pixels on the right, 0 pixels on the bottom, and then 30 pixels from the left. So let's see what that looks like now. There it is. Now here's something that you might notice. You see our background isn't going all the way to the bottom. That's because we put a float element in here. What's happening is this wrapper isn't understanding this float element. It's floating it out of the structure of things. And so the page wrapper only is seeing everything that's actually in the page wrapper because it's been floated out of it. So in order to fix that, we need to apply what's called a clear fix. And at the beginning you'll see that, remember I said that we added a class of group to our page wrap. Well, that's basically a class style here that's I've got right here, and this is called a clear fix. This code I'll put on my site, and that's basically what it is. It's allowing anything that's floated to actually have substance, and for this div ID of page wrap to understand that. So if we go back in here now, and I need to save it. And there we go. So now it puts it back in to the flow of things. Hopefully that made sense. So now we have this sidebar H3 tag right here, the Boise Community Concerts logo. I want to keep that H3 tag, but I don't want it to show up right now, so we're going to actually display it as none. Call out to that sidebar 1 H3 tag and display none. And then you should see that it goes away. So what's next? Our main content here. Main content. And we of course want that to be in the center. So we are going to float it to the left, and we're going to give it a width of 529 pixels, and we're going to move it from the left 190 pixels, and I'm going to give it some padding, 0 on the top, 0 on the right, 20 pixels on the bottom, and 0 on the left. And then we're going to grab this main content H2 tag, which is the title of the main content, and we're going to give it a font. 36 pixels is the size, and then we are going to make it bold, so we use the font weight, if I could spell here, bold, and let's give it some padding. So we want 20 pixels top and bottom, 0 pixels left and right. And then we're going to align it, the text, to the center. So let's see what we've got now. There it is. And let's style the paragraph, which we actually gave a class of intro. We'll grab that. And you'll see that since it's a class, we're actually using the period here to grab it instead of the hashtag for divs. So intro, we're just going to give this font size of 16 pixels. What's next? What's next? Intro, sidebar. Sidebar 2. So let's go ahead and target the sidebar 2. And we're going to float it to the right. And we're going to give it a width of 250 pixels. I'm going to give it a height of 414 pixels. And text align, we're going to align that text obviously in the center at this point. And we're going to give it some padding, 40 pixels from the top, 10 pixels from the right, 0 on the bottom, 0 on the left. And let's see what that looks like now. There we go. So let's target the sidebar H3 tag, sidebar 2, H3, and we're going to give it that font. So in fact, I'm just going to copy and paste some stuff here. So we've got the padding font that we need, and there we go. And then we're going to target the brochure, which was where the image is at here. And we're going to give it a width of 100% because it is inside of that, height of 370 pixels, and a background color right now, because we don't have the image, that's going to go in later, of black. And that gives us that. Alright, I guess we're done with everything in the page wrap. We just need to grab this footer here. We're going to be floating it, so it's got a class of group, we got a quote, and the copyright information. So this is actually going to be pretty quick. So grab that footer, and we're going to give it a width of 1024 pixels. Margin, we're going to give it 5 pixels from the top, auto, left and right, and then 30 pixels from the bottom. That gives us a little room to breathe. And we're going to give the text color in there, F2, 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 which is the same color as the title. The font here, we're going to use that same font that we've been using. Let's see, let's give it a little bit of text shadow so it pops out just a little bit. Just 1 pixel, 2 pixels, we'll give it that gray. And let's see how that's coming along. There it is. Okay. So just need to grab the quote. This Boise loves music, which actually I don't think is their quote, but yeah. So we're going to give it a width of 50%, and we're going to float it to the left. And then for the copyright, and then we're going to float it right. And then we're also going to align the text to the right. So, alright. So, there we go. Boise loves music. Boise Community Concerts. That is it. That is styled. Done with CSS. This was all an image at one point. This is all done with CSS. I may put that image back there in the background. I don't know yet. Boy, the next thing to do is we're going to convert this into a WordPress theme. So stick around for that.